everybody? Welcome to Capital of Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to recap this past Saturday's light heavyweight fight in which Andre Ward made his light heavyweight debut against Cuban's amateur standout Sullivan Barrera and light heavyweight contender. Also on that card we had Joseph Jojo Diaz facing Jason Velez in a featherweight eliminator. We didn't talk too much about that one. We just said that Diaz's superior sharpness and Olympic pedigree would carry him through to victory, and it did.
Yeah, that guy was super sharp, and I don't know what it was. He just couldn't get Velez out of there because he was landing some great shots. And I'm not talking about glancing. They were sharp. They were accurate. I think he landed over 50-something percent of his punches.
There was power punches. Jim Lampley had made a mistake.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's still a lot of punches that were landing.
50% of your power shots usually means you're going to get that guy out of there. But Velez is a tough guy, and he'll probably be back in contention soon as well.
That's right.
So the featherweight division does have quite a few players in there, so we'll look to see where he goes from here. Especially because I think Lomachenko and Walters are going to be fighting at 130 and not 126.
We think.
Yeah, that's a confusing situation. That fight might not even happen now. So yeah. Moving on to the main event. Andre Ward, former king of the super middleweight division, in his first full-fledged light heavyweight fight, his first fight at the light heavyweight area was a catchweight fight against Paul Smith last June. This is also Ward's fourth fight in the last 4 years. So there were a lot of questions on how he would look, if the rust would affect him, if he was going to be strong enough at light heavyweight, if Barrera could make any of those become a problem. And we got a few answers, and we got a few more questions as well. And I said it because the fight was pretty good. Ward did look good in spots. Barrera landed some nice sneaky punches. Didn't look like he affected Ward at any point, but he did mark Ward's face up. So there is some things that he might feel he needs to work on in that area.
But that was around the same time he had some cuts from accidental butts as well.
Yes, he did catch a nasty cut on the eyelid from a headbutt late in the fight. Right. He also had a point deducted for a low blow. It was pretty low. Yeah. And he scored a knockdown in the third round. So let's break it down a little bit. How did Andre Ward come out with this win? First, in the preview video, we said that Andre Ward would be faster than Sullivan Barrera. Check. That was the case. Secondly, the jab of Barrera, because it came from a low area, would lead to counter right hands for Ward. That was there, but Ward didn't pull the trigger on it except for maybe 2 or 3 times. And you could even hear Roy Jones keep saying like, hey, you know, the right hand is there, but he's still not comfortable in throwing that right hand. And we have to remember that shoulder, that right shoulder, has been surgically repaired within that 4-year stalling period that he's had. So he's probably not comfortable throwing that right hand 100% yet. Right. So when he did throw it, it landed pretty good, but not like his left hand has been landing over the past few years. So that's something he has to work on, especially with a Sergey Kovalev fight looming in the future. He also, while he did get marked up, I think he was pretty solid defensively. I was pretty impressed at the way that he made Barrera miss in close and miss in combination as well. There were a lot of times Barrera was throwing combinations at Ward and they were missing just by a hair, like grazing over his shoulder or just barely missing. And The way he was doing that is a tactic called making yourself small. Now, if Rob is Barrera and I'm Ward, what he's doing is similar to Mayweather and James Toney, where they will turn to the side and give you their shoulder, but then at the same time, like when you see Mayweather and the like, he would usually roll and he would stay in the area. What Ward would do was he just step slightly over this way or back this way, and also move his head. He's changing levels as well. So the target area that Barrera had to land became very small. That's what they mean by making yourself small. So he only had a small window to land that Ward was moving constantly in order to not be hit. So that was very impressive, especially being in there with a bigger guy. Barrera did look physically bigger. I think early on in the fight, Ward was unable to move him around like he usually is able to do until Barrera started slowing down later on in the fight. You want to add something?
Well, that's the other thing. He was slowing down, and I think that was both mental and physical fatigue. If you watch the fight, and Barrera did have some good rounds. I actually gave him the fourth round. I think the second round was really close between the two. But you can literally see the hesitance on Barrera's face and body language to throw. He just wasn't throwing as much as he could have. He normally averaged about 74 punches per round, and that dropped dramatically with a guy like Ward. And it wasn't just because he couldn't hit him, but he was giving him feints, and as the fight wore on,
I was going to point that out.
Ward will feint, and you'll see him really, if you watch our video, you can see how those feints will affect you, but you can start seeing him, his reaction become more and more pronounced with each feint. So he was very reluctant to throw.
Yes. And when you got a guy beating you to the punch, when he punches with you and leading, that's going to make you hesitant. And then you start to have those doubts. And then you could see him kind of later on in the fight kind of rushing things a little bit and pushing with his punches, like really just trying to get to Ward any way he could. Credit to him for not collapsing and just giving up. He was still trying to win that fight all the way through to the end. So you have to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
But that mental and physical fatigue, and then Ward started landing some good body shots on the inside. There was a lot of good inside work from both men. I think a lot of Barrera's body work was uncredited from the HBO crew. He threw a lot of great left hooks to the body.
He did.
A few sneaky right hands. The right uppercut was getting there every now and then.
That was something that they disregarded as well. Like, if you watch the my reaction video, I thought Barrera, even though he was fatigued and he did lose, there were points where, like, you could really see his ability. That uppercut, he missed sometimes, but it was really close, and then he landed sometimes, and that did wake Andre Ward up. But it was a very good uppercut that he did throw on the inside.
Yes, and so he did have success in spots. This was not a complete domination of sorts, but it was a thorough, clear win for Ward. Also, on the knockdown in the third round, when I originally saw it, I thought Barrera was squared up because of the camera angle. They had the back angle. But he was actually preparing to punch, and he had muscled Ward to the ropes and was preparing to throw a punch. Ward just beat him to the punch. He never saw it coming, and he went down.
And it was kind of odd because not only did Ward throw it quick, but he actually threw the punch over the elbow of Barrera. So if you say, because Barrera was coming up, and you could see he kind of did the throw thing, boom. A punch he did not see coming, not over his own shoulder and elbow, caught him off guard, slightly squared up. It was a legit knockdown. We're not saying it was super powerful, but
yeah, he wasn't hurt at all by it, but it was just like he said, he didn't see it, and it was like, you know, it was just kind of one of those things like, oh snap,
right.
I got knocked down. He was probably more upset than hurt, like, I can't believe this just happened.
Now, it was a punch. It wasn't a push. Wasn't a slap. That was a legit land on Barrera. He shook it off well.
Yeah.
I think rather than being hurt in the fight, he was more confused and actually having the fight kind of taken out of him a little bit.
Yeah. So going forward, I do think that eventually Sullivan Barrera will challenge for a title.
Yeah.
He may even be able to win one, maybe not within the next couple years, but maybe like 3 or 4 years, like, because Ward is talking moving up even more after an uncertainty already with the Kovalev fight. So not putting the cart before the horse. Personally, I think Ward needs some more seasoning before he goes in there with Kovalev, or he probably will not win that fight.
Yeah, I do too. I think he needs to see someone, whether it's Fonfara, Shabransky. I don't know about Beertaviev because of the whole promotional, advising stuff.
Yeah.
But there is talent in that top 10 part of the division. I would personally say that the best opponent to prepare him for Kovalev might be Fonfara.
With punch style, yes.
Well, punch style.
The hand speed isn't quite there, and neither is the power. But they do have a similar style in like the way they throw their punches.
But he needs another fight. He has to get his timing down because you can see the ring rust was there, which speaks volumes of his ring IQ and his ability.
Right. Like Rob said, the right hand was going to be there, and it was. And like Roy was calling for it all night. But he only threw it rarely. He needs to get that right hand dialed in and ready to go if he's going to challenge Kovalev. Even though it was impressive that he beat Carl Froch with one arm and all of that, he's going to need to beat Kovalev because Kovalev is a much smarter boxer than Carl Froch is. Mm-hmm. And that's where Kovalev doesn't get his credit. A lot of people talk about his power, and they kind of overrate his power as far as, like, he's not like one of those knockout, put your lights out type of punchers. He is an excellent, extraordinary finisher. He can get you hurt. His punches are enough to get you buzzed, and when he does buzz you, he finishes you.
Yeah, and not just that, but look at not only just look at his technique and his footwork when throwing his punches. The one thing about Kovalev is that he rarely seems off balance in any of his punches. You can see he has good punches, whether it's a jab up top, and he generates the power from his legs like you're supposed to.
Right, and a big example of that is when he knocked down Bernard Hopkins, when Bernard Hopkins was coming forward and he was stepping back, but he stepped back just enough to be able to throw that right hand and loop it to where it needed to be to shock Hopkins and cause the knockdown. So the underrated IQ of Sergey Kovalev needs to be handled by Ward very carefully because he has to be on his P's and Q's to win that fight. And I think everybody believes that and knows that. But I think if he gets another fight or maybe 2 in, then he'll have a better chance. We won't know until he actually gets in the ring, and we'll have to see how good he looks in those other fights. But he does need more fights before he gets in there with Kovalev. Anything else you got?
No. We saw Kell Brook knock out Kevin Bizier in 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And it was pretty ugly.
Yeah, it was. Also, Chris Eubank Jr. won. And this is a reminder that something we all have to be always cognizant of. Like, these guys are putting their health and their well-being on the line for our entertainment. And his opponent, I can't think of his name right now. Nick Blackwell collapsed in the ring and was placed into a medically induced coma. That is happening a lot these days. A lot of guys are getting seriously hurt and having their careers ended at a very young age and they're doing it, you know, they get paid for it. They're doing it the best, you know, the best way they feel to support their family. But they have to go home to their families. We don't have to deal with those issues. We have all these preconceived notions about, you know, how things are supposed to go and things like that. But boxing is an ugly sport. And we have to remember that. It may look beautiful to us when a guy's in there dominating the fight, but it doesn't feel beautiful to that guy getting hit upside the head constantly. It's not a good feeling to be broken down mentally and physically and then have to like go to the hospital, or having your family deal with the anguish of watching you get beat up, and then having health problems later on in life when we've forgotten about them and moved on, and they still have to deal with the effects and the consequences of that choice. And then people are, you know, out there trying to like disrespect people by calling them bums and things like that. These people are not bums. These are warriors. From the club level fighter who's just trying to get a few paychecks to make it through the week, to the pay-per-view headliner who's making an obscene amount of money. All of these guys deserve the respect of doing what they do for us. Even though we watch it on a different type of level than like the average fan, like we're watching it, we're learning things and using it as a teaching tool. At the end of the day, they have to deal with that danger. And unless you're in the corner of that fighter or maybe like betting some money on them, there is no reason for us to be getting all bent out of shape over the outcome of fights.
You still want these guys to walk out and have a clean bill of health in the long run.
Yes. So let's respect these fighters. Let's stop calling them names. Let's stop belittling their accomplishments. And let's just enjoy that they are sacrificing themselves for us and appreciate what they do. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video. If you have not yet, subscribe. Leave your comments down below. You can hit us up on Facebook, Google+, and Instagram at CapitalofCombat. You can hit us up on our email, capitalofcombat@gmail.com. We will see you guys in the next video. Until then, peace.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.